Alright folks, what's going on? Welcome back to Street City Studio. I'm John, and today I'm training with some Imperial Guards here. Today is May the 6th, and some people like to call that Revenge of the 6th. Just like yesterday was Revenge of the 5th, in honor of Revenge of the Sith film. And so, in honor of that, I thought we would look at some of my favorite Star Wars villains. Maybe not necessarily Sith, but a good handful of them are, I'm sure. Most of them, right? But I thought a good place to start would be these Imperial Guards, right? I got 4 of these guys, and I really, except for the notorious hand issue, right, where they won't hold their pike unless their hand is upside down. But I probably bugs me less than it bugs some people, because I can still pose them there with that pike. As long as you're not looking too close, you don't necessarily pick up on it right away. It doesn't bug me as much. It does bug me if I'm staring at it long enough. But there's things you can do, especially if it's just up on a shelf, right? It's going to be to the back or behind some other figures. But I really like the versatility. I really like the extra armor. And now, I didn't read all of these comics, so I don't know all of the specifics, but it definitely is very cool armor. Has that Praetorian Guard look, just like them guards on, The Mandalorian, wasn't it? Right? But I really like this figure, and it's one of very few figures that I would just buy 4 in a lump, and I did. I just buy 4 of them in a lump. Just especially because he's versatile, right? Even if I wanted to take all the armor off of him, let me get that up there, see? It's just some nice robes, right? If I was doing like some red ninjas or something, I could definitely throw them in the background somewhere, and they wouldn't even stand out, you know? So these guys are definitely pretty high on my list. And we'll probably move on pretty quickly, but if it wasn't obvious, right? The Dark Times Vader is probably real high on my list, just because of all of his extra hands and his extra hip articulation. His cape is done really well. I can't say enough about this figure, but I know I probably take a lot of pictures of him, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on this figure, just because everybody's gonna be familiar with my use of it already. Trying to give some other figures, a lot of screen time too. But he's a great figure, and I can't say enough. A lot of my figures end up packed away a little bit, but he doesn't even get the opportunity to get packed away. He just stays in use. Thinking next up, let me move some of these boxes. I got a bunch of boxes stacked right here, so I don't have to take a long time. But another figure very, very high on my list is the Phantom Menace himself, Darth Maul. Right. And now I know a lot of people kind of criticize how this hood was done, but I'm kind of a fan of it. I like having that extra piece to kind of prop that up because it doesn't sit right otherwise. Right? But I kind of get, you just got to hide that top seam, I think. Right? If you don't hide that top seam, it doesn't look good. But I'll show you. Right? If you pull that back and it looks like it's got two hoods there, it becomes real obvious. All I would do, well, it's hard to get at it from that angle, but pull it back down and you get the plastic hood hidden under the cloth hood as best you can, and it looks better. But I know a lot of people complained about his head too, his face sculpt or whatever. And I've thought about grabbing the other figure, with the Rebels version with the nicer head sculpt, but I don't find it necessary either. Right? It's a great figure. I thought about pulling his lightsabers out, but I'm working in a tighter space here today. With this little, oh, you can't even see it. Let me back up for you here. All right, I've got a light pad for the floor and a light pad for the ceiling, standing on these junk cups I got sitting here, and so I don't have a lot of space for lightsabers and stuff at the moment. If I had pulled these guys out of here to start getting lightsabers in there, I know I'll knock him over. That'll be a whole thing. One figure that, like I said, isn't a Sith, but it's definitely very high on my list here. And now I'm going to have to keep hold of this one because he's not going to stand very good. But General Grievous, right? And I love this figure, but he does not stand very good. And even now, let me crouch him out a little bit. He's looking too tall for the screen. Is that better? Yeah, a little bit. All right. So, ooh, I might have got him to stand too. So this figure would be way higher on my list if he stood better. But also, I kind of don't love how the cloak kind of blocks his face unless you play with it. Because you really got to play with it a bit. But I like that it holds the lightsabers in the little pockets. I love that his arms separate. I'm probably regret picking him up again, but I kind of want to show that off. I love that, right? Not only do his arms go together and separate, but they have articulation, right, that works, right? In the forearm there, I don't want to say he's got wrist rotation when his arms are together, but it doesn't ruin it, right? The articulation doesn't look real clunky like some things can get when they get too many articulations and too many gimmicks, right? It doesn't have like a giant extra piece that's not supposed to be there just to make it work. It does have a little post on the underside of the arm, but it's so tiny and minuscule that I'm not even, it's not distracting or problematic in any way. But I really do. I can't get enough of this figure. There was probably a time where I might have considered it one of my Star Wars grails. But ultimately, it falls real low on the list just because of how weak his legs are. Even when I get him to stand like I just did, right, he's not going to stand for more than maybe 20 minutes or something before his legs start to kind of warp under the weight of him. Right? And that's just not good. And I get it. Right? He's thin-legged and stuff, but I mean, use a harder plastic, I suppose. I'm not in the factory there with him, right? But we got this next one. Is going right back to the Phantom Menace there with Palpatine, Darth Sidious, right? And this is the one without the facial damage yet. I always kind of like that. I thought that was kind of neat. But also his cloak is really nice. And I don't know that it even comes across on camera, but it's not the same as some of these cape materials, or it feels a little thicker. So maybe it is, but it definitely feels a little thicker. He's gonna fall over here on me. And let's see. No, you still don't want to stand. Well, he just moved himself further down the list, so I'm done with that figure for now, and we'll move right on to the Senate fight Palpatine Darth Sidious. Now, this figure was also probably one of my Star Wars grails until I got it, at least. And now he's not going to stand. He was standing fine. Alright, we got him standing. I'm going to not touch him for a minute here. Hopefully I have some better luck. But I don't really have a good reason to say he was a grail other than I really like the look of this figure, and I really like the fight scene he had, or scenes he had with Yoda. Some of my favorite moments. I think a lot of us feel the same, I'm sure. But those were some of the best moments from them prequels. Seeing Yoda and Sidious fight each other. Not just seeing Yoda fight, but seeing what Palpatine Sidious might do to defend himself against someone like Yoda. Because we didn't get a lot of fights with Palpatine. I mean, he fought Mace Windu, he fought those Jedis, and he fought Yoda, and that was about it. And likewise, Yoda fought Dooku, and he fought Sidious, and if you count those clone troopers, maybe, right? And some people probably count the cartoons and stuff too, but I'm not really counting those. But I love the soft goods fur on this figure. All the soft goods, but especially the extra fur there. And I know I said I wasn't gonna touch him. I probably should have stuck to that, but I kind of wanted to turn him around here. Nope, now he's gonna fall over. Kidding me? Come on. There we go. It's a nice little tunic or whatever you want to call it. Extra little part. And black fur around his brown robe. It's definitely a nice figure. It didn't really... It could have come with some accessories, maybe his desk or, I don't know. But it's definitely high on my list until I'm saying once I got it, I move on to other figures, but it's still real high on my list. He just doesn't get enough action because I don't exactly have a good diorama for him. But, I think we'll move it on with one last figure. I'm getting there. Now, this figure probably isn't going to get any love because that better version just came out, right? The one without the spikes on his arms and slightly better face sculpt and yada, yada, yada. But I really love this Jango Fett figure. This was one of my grails for sure. Let me get this helmet off of here. Right, I really like that he came with his extra little headset. Let me see, where is it? No, I probably shouldn't even try and stick it on him, but maybe I will. Let's try. Jango ain't gonna let me down, are you, Jango? You gonna stand when I put you back? Let's see. There we go. And now, I do have a Slave 1 for Boba Fett in the Boba Fett colors, but I don't have that Jango Fett blue paint job version. I gotta rectify that eventually, and I will. But I don't know why I love that. I need some more of these headsets, really. One for Boba and one for him. Because I do have that young Boba Fett figure somewhere. I should have dug him out for this. I could have included him. Because he's probably right there. Right? They make a pair, they make a set. Especially if you've got the Slave 1 ship to go with them there, right? Or the fire spray, whatever they're calling it these days. Right? But that's definitely some of my favorite villain figures. Jango Fett, he was just like the cowboy gunslinger that they called in, right? And I almost felt like he wasn't a bad guy. And there probably was a time where I would have defended him as the hero, like especially when I was playing that bounty hunter game, right? That game tried to spin him like a hero. But if you go back and watch those movies, right, he was trying to kill assassination targets and stuff, and not just that, right? When his hired gun failed, he took them out so they couldn't rat on him too, right? And so he was definitely not a good guy like they've tried to spin it at times. And I think Star Wars is notorious for that, though, aren't they? Right? Han Solo was spun into a hero, even to the point of messing with scenes, right? Boba Fett's been spun into a hero now, even though he was in the same boat, right? He was a villainous character on the side of the bad guys, and even for Boba's sake, or in the case of Boba, right? Vader had to warn him, like, hey, don't go ham on on this mission. You know, keep it kosher, please. So, even amongst the bad guys, Boba Fett was thought to be a rowdy dude. But, rowdy doesn't always necessarily equate to evil. But in some of these cases where you're doing some evil stuff, you can't really defend them as heroes either. That might be a great place to end it, huh? As always, I appreciate you guys coming by and hanging out with me. If you want to follow me on Facebook or Instagram, I'd appreciate it. As always, the links are down in the description. But otherwise, you guys have a great week this week. Get it off to a good start here on a Monday. But otherwise, I appreciate you guys coming by. Keep playing with them toys, and I'll talk to you again real soon.